everyone. My name is Brooke, and I'm so happy that you're all here. Welcome to the Spark of a Story, bringing light to your brand. And also, I just want to say, if you guys are still eating, please continue to eat. My voice is loud enough that it can surpass anybody crunching on chips, so don't worry about that. So just a little bit about me. I am the founder of Spark Marketing and Consulting. I have a few parts to my business. So Spark Marketing and Consulting is a marketing consulting company. And then I have a podcast called Brooke's Babbles, which is a storytelling podcast. So I cover anything from entrepreneurial stories to personal stories, motherhood. I have a 4-year-old son, and so I pride myself on being a momtipreneur, and so I really am passionate about storytelling. So that is the umbrella for my marketing and consulting agency, podcast, and my newer business, which is called Life Stories, where I create family heirloom books, so tangible books and audio books, so that families can preserve their loved ones' life stories in their own words instead of trying to remember for the next few generations. I also attended CU Boulder in their business program. My background is very heavily in marketing, a little bit of PR, communications. I just have a lot of passions. And then I also am a former president of a local moms chapter. So in this presentation, you will learn why values matter in branding and how they influence trust and loyalty. I'll also give some practical tips for how to tell your brand story and align your personal values and vision with your business, and then some ways to tie that into your messaging so that it feels natural and not so marketing technical heavy. So behind every business is a founder with a dream. And I'm sure many of you here are founders, and your business is not just something transactional. There's a dream behind why you started your business, why you do what you do, who you serve. And behind every customer is a person that God created, and they have a heart that wants to be filled. So how can we bridge the gap between both of these? Value alignment. And so in this presentation, we'll go a little bit further into how to bridge the gap and how to align your values and make everybody satisfied. So just a little bit of background before we go into the how. I want to start with the why. Maybe I've been hanging out with my 4-year-old too much, and I hear why too much all the time. So we're going to start with the why. So our values, when we're connected to them as people, we feel more fulfilled in our lives. And when we align our values with what we do better work. And when we do good work, we help to spread the light of Jesus in the world and in our relationships. So just some stats. This isn't just me babbling on about values. There are stats to back this up. So 80% of consumers will pay up to 5% more for products that they feel align with their values. 64% of Americans would pay more for brands that align with their values, and 78% of shoppers are willing to pay a premium for eco-friendly products, but also for ethically sourced products. And values drive loyalty. 88% of consumers buy from brands that share their values. 34% of consumers show true loyalty to their brands that emphasize ethical practices. And 47% of respondents demonstrate loyalty by recommending that particular brand to their friends and family. And I have a background in digital marketing. I've also done some traditional marketing, but it still stays true that word of mouth is the most effective marketing. You can put up all of the billboards you want, but word of mouth truly is one of the most effective marketing platforms. And so just some further stats to drive my point home. So 57% of consumers spend more on brands that they're loyal to. And so if you can get them to buy your product with your value alignment, the stats are significant on keeping them as your customers. And furthermore, brands aligned with customer values see higher emotional attachment, which then ultimately drives the loyalty further. So, my approach through my storytelling lens applies to marketing in my SPARK framework. So, story and specialty. And so these are just some things that I also want you guys to think about as you're pondering who your business is, what your values are, who you're serving, how and why. Just keep these key pieces in mind. So what is your story and specialty? Purpose and positioning, audience and approach, reputation and relationships, and key message and market presence. So, Aaron, I told you I would put you a little bit on the spot. So before I came up here to give my presentation, he and I actually started talking about what he does for work. He is the owner of Tacit Vision. And through our conversation, we just really uncovered how much words matter. So Tacit Vision is a company in which Aaron is an independent consultant in the mining industry, particularly in geology. And as we were talking, we discussed if he were to change his title, because once again, words matter. So independent consultant can sometimes give off the impression, as he said, like, I'm independent, I don't need anybody, nobody's gonna tell me what to do. So maybe it comes across as uncoachable. Or independent sometimes can be associated with being more expensive. And so we were discussing if perhaps he changes his title to fractional mining consultant. And of course, you're welcome to play around with that. But independent and fractional, they give two different ideations. And so particularly with consultants, I've noticed that the fractional word helps their clients to understand that they're getting a high quality of work at a fractional time. So a lot of these clients, as Aaron mentioned, are considering hiring somebody full-time. And for especially smaller business owners, that might not always seem feasible, but they don't know any other way. And so conveying that message that I'm a fractional consultant, so you get everything that you need and you don't have to manage somebody full-time. So that's just an example of how this can work. I also want to point out this book. I did not see this until just a little bit ago, and it really caught my eye because it aligns with my values. Offered Up. Fellow Catholic, we have all heard the term offered up, and the lovely picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that just also goes to show that we aren't going to capture everybody with our values, and that's okay. But aligning yourself and your values with your business will attract the right people and help to further drive that. And so I'll give Megan a little shout out here. I'm very excited. I definitely want to read this book. But it's about a personal health experience that Megan experienced. And so it's about how to use your suffering instead of just viewing it as a thing to be endured. So there are so many different ways that you can align your values with what you do, even if your business isn't specifically Catholic. Marketing consulting is not specifically Catholic, but we'll kind of go into my backstory with how I aligned my businesses. But I first want to give some other examples of how businesses have aligned their businesses and their values. So 7 Weeks Coffee, they're a pro-life coffee organization. And so they do well because they're a business, right? So they have a product to sell. So you can do well and be profitable while doing good and donating to organizations that you believe in. And once again, is this for everybody? No, some people are not going to align with it, and that's okay. But the right people will buy it and perhaps even pay up to 5% higher of a price because they want something that aligns with their values. And then Michael, I apologize. I didn't get the memo about the values change until about 5 minutes ago. So this is, I'm going to highlight the evolution of the values, though. So as of 4 weeks ago, these were the CCBN core values. But they're now lead with generosity, build connections, and support Catholic businesses. But I actually love that it changed, though, because that's what it's all about. You're never tied down to one thing, especially as a business owner. Personally, that's one thing that I love about being a business owner is it's like a choose your own adventure. If I make my core values and it's not aligning anymore, I can change it. You can always evolve. I mean, of course, do so strategically and don't change every other second, but if something doesn't align with your heart, you're always welcome to change it. And then I wanted to give an example of a not specifically Catholic organization. I developed their key messaging for them, and so this business owner of Trustwork Home Renovations, not Catholic, they do home renovations, they're a general contractor, but there's still a way to convey your core values. This owner, Steve, he cares deeply about bringing his 20 years of project management experience into the home renovation industry, because if any of you guys here have done a home renovation project, it is a nightmare. And so Steve really believes in providing high quality customer service, quality and craftsmanship, process and project management so that homeowners know when people are coming out, who's going to be in their home, and they do so with integrity and trust. Fully transparent company, and so all of that to say, once again, you could be a general contractor, you could be anything, and there's still a way to align your values with what you do, even if you don't specifically call out that you're Catholic. So, we already talked about that. So, any questions so far? Okay. So here's some practical tips that I have for how to do this, because you might be sitting there like, okay, sure, I know I'm Catholic, but how do I take these words and my values and put it into practice with my business? So, of course, start with yourself. Think about who you are. Go inward, as St. Augustine would say. Who you are, what do you do, your passions, and then you can always work with a consultant. I'm here. But also ask others about their story. That's something that I love about what I do is storytelling, because we all have our own story. Even though Offer It Up has a similar theme to it as Jody's book, Beautiful Agony, which also has a similar theme to the book that I'm writing called Catalyst, which is about sparking light from darkness. They all have similar themes, but the beautiful thing is that we are all individuals made in the image of God, and we all have our own stories. Even though we all suffer, we all have our own unique sufferings. And so I encourage you all to ask others about your story, or tell your story. I'd love to have you on my podcast and learn about your story of how you got to where you are and any inspiration that you'd like to pass along to others. And seek inspiration from values-based brands. Simple Google search, or the interesting thing too is if you're on social media and you're just looking at some values-based brands or Catholic things, for example, the the Meta algorithm will start to show you ads for those particular things. So for example, if I'm looking at Catholic things, 7 Weeks Coffee ads start to pop up. So it's just amazing how what you're paying attention to just starts to increase. So there's so many outlets for inspiration. And then, like I said, marketing and consulting is not a Catholic product. But as a Catholic, I wanted my values to align with what I do. And so St. Jude is my patron saint. And so he is always pictured with a flame above his head. And so I really wanted to incorporate that into my logo. Maybe not everybody picks up on that, and that's okay, but it's, even if nobody else knows about it, that's still something that that makes it special to me. And then SMC, which is the acronym for Spark Marketing and Consulting, is just also, it's an acronym that's close to my heart. Sacred Heart of Jesus, Most Chaste Heart of Joseph. No, I always get that backwards. Most pure heart of Mary, chaste heart of Joseph. There we go. And so just really think about who you want to serve. And another practical idea is to add a mission and values section to your website if you don't already have one. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can just simply say, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's our values, and just really nailing it down so that the right people will find it and know if they align with you or not. So some takeaways that I want all of you, the spark, as I say on my podcast, the spark I want to leave in your heart today is that values matter. They matter in branding, they resonate with the right people, and marketing is all about capturing the right people at the right time. And I think the best way to do that is by being authentic and being who you are. And find and tell your brand story by starting with yourself. So tie your values and your messaging to your marketing with very clear key points. Be very clear, like the CCBN values. I love how clear and concise they are. And just once again, aligning your values will increase brand loyalty, help capture the right customers for you. And one second. All about being authentic, right? I lost my matches here. Totally lost the effect on this, but wanted to make it memorable. So, if I can get these out. Goodness gracious. I just wanted to leave you all with this, that all it takes is these darn green light matches. That all it takes is a spark, and you can be the one light that can pass on the light to other people just by sharing your story. So together we can light the world on fire, and I promise I won't light this church on fire. So, thank you all.